All right, so let's take a look at where we left off last time. And when I click start, we have our countdown timer. Let's go ahead and open up all three of these scripts in our script editor. All right, so here we are. What I'd like to do is when I click that start button is start the timer. I'm actually noticing something that I made a mistake on. I actually have two of these fields here. I don't know if that was in the last video or I did that offline. So I'm just going to delete the second one. Or actually, I guess we'll delete. Oh, we have one called countdown timer. We have one called countdown. It looks like we're using countdown timer. So I'm just going to take this serialized field here and place it in front of this one. And then I'm going to delete this one out. And I'm selecting both these. I'm holding Alt and up arrow, and I'm just moving it so it sits here. So let's save this and see if it broke anything. If we're like missing anything in our game manager. Yeah, so now we're missing our countdown timer. So just drag that back in. Sorry about the confusion. I caught that kind of late. All right, so if we look at our code, it's not that deep, but it can be very confusing, especially if you step away for a while. So I'm going to kind of run through it really quickly. I know these can kind of get boring when my professors used to do that. So we have all of our states saved here in our enum. We've got these two serialized fields. We're listening for when our countdown our countdown timer starts ticking up or it's updating. And then we're also listening for when it's finished so that we could set our game state to playing so we can play. So if you remember, we created this variable last time. And let me jump back into Unity, or this method, sorry. And what this method does is when we click the button, it calls or it sends countdown. And if we select our button here, remember we did that here on this onClick function, which really just registers click events. So when we click something, we want it to do something. And what we're doing here is we're just calling that onStart button set state method here. So what we want to do in here is a couple things. We want to check if our current state is set to countdown. And if it is, we're going to call this timer. Now notice it's gray here. And so it hasn't been called yet. And that's the reason why our timer isn't working. So what we can do is just inside of here is, remember we have there's one thing that might be a little redundant, is we have this variable up here. I think we had one called current state. Yeah, it's called current state. We haven't been really updating that, and just it's good practice to sort of always update current state to whatever the new state is. So all we do is we say current state equals whatever state is being passed into this method. And then we're setting that state. And then we could just do a simple if statement like this. And we could say if the new state is equal to, and remember we have all these states up here. So I can just copy game state and then put a dot there and set it to countdown. So if our current state is this, or if our new state is the same as countdown state, remember we have this variable up here that we were messing around with, this countdown timer. Because it's of type SI countdown timer here, that gives us access to this guy right here. So all I have to do is paste that and then hit dot. Now, actually, the one thing is make sure that yours is public. I don't remember if we left it like this, which automatically makes it private. But if you add a public there, it allows us to access it from this script. And what we want to access is start countdown. And that's this right here. And remember, all this does is, this is the big guy here. We're setting our countdown timer to the countdown duration here. So we're setting this to the amount of time, which is 3 seconds, which we can adjust in the editor. And then is counting is this guy here, which is if this is true, which we're setting here, we start our timer. So let's save all three of these scripts just to make sure in case we changed anything. Looks like I clicked something on the side here. I think we're okay. All right, let's return to Unity and see if this works. All right, so let's go ahead and press play. You could see we start at 3, 2, 1. Boom. And notice it went, everything is deactivated, but now we're in Game UI panel. And if you remember, Game UI panel, where is our UI manager? Game UI panel is actually game playing. So let's actually change that because that's a little confusing. So if our game state here is playing here, we have Game UI panel, but we should be naming this game object instead of Game UI panel. We should probably name this game playing. We could even just name it panel. I don't know why I put UI there, but not the other one, so forgive me. And I'm going to copy this, and I'm just going to update every instance. Now, you could hit Control-RR, and it'll essentially do the same thing. It'll rename all of them. So let's try this one more time, make sure I didn't break anything. And it actually looks like I broke everything. So I'm just going to grab this Game UI panel here and just drop it in there. So now let's try that one more time. Click on that, and we get 3, 2, 1. And as I mentioned, if I select countdown text and I change this to 10 seconds, and I press play, and I hit start, we get 10. We should really adjust that a little bit. So let's say we enter 10 in here. I'm going to extend that out a little bit. And then I want to make sure if I hit T like Tom, that center point is in the center there. Let's move this over a little bit. And then I want to zero that out, just because it looks nicer to be centered. There you go, 10, 9, 8, 7. But nobody wants to wait 10 seconds. I think 3 is probably the best you're going to get for, let's get Control S for someone's patience. And actually the Space Invaders thing here, where's that at? Welcome panel. Let's move that title up just a little bit. It's like peeking in a little bit into the game. All right. So that's it for updating our timer. For the rest, what we're going to do is we're going to start focusing on actual gameplay.